Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Too Many Games, and today we are here to do another army review from Epic Armageddon, and we are looking at the Eldar list tonight, the Biel Tan Craft World to be specific. This is the primary Eldar list that came in the original release of Epic Armageddon, although it is updated a bit. Some of the rules are different, but this is the current one available in the Epic Armageddon community. So we're going to go through this tonight. We're going to have a look at each unit that makes up formations, and I'm going to give you some feedback, some pros, cons, some ideas on how to use the unit, and also whether or not I would recommend it. So join with me. Hopefully you like this. We did the Codex Astartes one last time and had some good feedback on that. And just to let people know, I am almost finished the aircraft video for the rules, so that'll be coming out soon. But let's get stuck into the Biel Tan army review. So let's have a look at just a bit of an overview of the actual army first. Apologies for the pixelated pictures. They looked a bit better originally when I grabbed them, but not so good now. So the Eldar have a strategy rating of 4, so not as high as the Space Marines, but that is pretty good. There's a lot of control that comes for that against most opponents. So you will struggle a bit against the Space Marines, but not a huge amount. Overall, pretty good. Initiative rating of 1+ on your Avatar, your Aspect Warriors, Phantoms, Revenants, and your Warlock formations. So that's a lot of your big stuff and your specialized stuff. But everything else will be a 2+, which is pretty good. Most things are pretty reliable. All the big stuff is very reliable. And remember, in Epic Armageddon, a 1 does not fail on a roll for initiative. So when you're going to activate someone on a 1+, if there's no modifiers, they automatically activate. All right, let's have a look at the special rules that apply to this army. All right, hit and run. This is a really, really good special rule for the Eldar. It applies to all Eldar units as well. So when taking your advance or double action, essentially, the formation may shoot before or after each move, but still only once. When they win the assault, they can move up to their move, not just 5 centimeters. So this is really good. This lets you basically do, a shoot, move, a move, shoot, a move, shoot, move. It lets you do a lot of little things like that. And it can be quite annoying for your opponent to deal with and quite advantageous for you. Many a times you will just jump out with some, say, fire prisms, move out, shoot, move back behind cover. It can get pretty frustrating. So it's a really good special rule. And when you win the assault, you can move your move value instead of just your 5 centimeters. So it makes things like jet bikes and that pretty dangerous kind of units to have flying around in the assault, because they can just follow up with big moves. All right, the Farsight special rule. A formation with Farsight, with a Farsight unit, may ignore the -1 penalty when attempting to retain the initiative. So this is really good. Lets you basically just kind of activate that second unit quite easier in a row. And provided a single Farsight unit is still on the board, once per turn the Eldar player can attempt to retain initiative twice in a row with any unit. That is really good. Being able to retain initiative twice and activate 3 units, or 3 formations I should say, is phenomenal if you really need to alpha strike or get units into position for an assault or something like that. This is a really important rule. One of the negative rules for the army is that you're not allowed to garrison with any of your units except for war walkers and rangers. When you're doing tournament games, obviously, story ones, narrative ones, you can do whatever you like. But so war walkers and rangers, and they're not the toughest of units to garrison with anyway. All right, let's have a look at some of the tech rules. The hollow field. You will learn to love the hollow field found on your Titans. It provides a 3+ saving throw that can be taken instead of your armor save. And it may always be taken. Even if they're hitting you with macro weapon or Titan killer attacks, you can still take your 3+ hollow save. You make a single save versus Titan killers, not 1 per point of damage. So it is an all or nothing thing. If they hit you with D6 points of damage, you make 1 save against that. If the unit that is taking a hollow field save also has reinforced armor, it can re-roll a failed save if it fails the hollow save, but it has to use its armor save after that. unless it's hit by a lance, a macro weapon, or a Titan killer attack. So reinforced armor still works to some extent, but usually you find that second save is not going to be a 3+, obviously. And no blast markers are placed if you save a hit with a hollow field, which is pretty good. All right, webway portal. So you will get a webway portal as part of your army. So each portal lets the Eldar player place 3 formations in reserve. That's at the start of the game. And they can enter via any portal by taking an action that allows them to move. One unit can enter via 1 portal per turn, and you'll find later on that we'll actually get webway portals on tanks. So you'll have a few options as to how you actually use your portals and bring units on, so you can have multiple coming on in a turn, which is pretty good. And lastly, lance. So you have lance weapons in the army, and they do not allow rerolls of armor saves for units with reinforced armor. So a nice little buff there. All right, let's get into the actual units that you'll get in the army and see if they're any good or not. So first we're going to start off with the Avatar. He's basically a war engine, pretty slow, good armor, some of the best in the game. Great in hand-to-hand, firefight's not bad. He's got his invulnerable save, which is nothing special. He's a commander, so that's good for being able to get others coming in on assault with him. Fearless is okay, inspiring's good. Walker, doesn't really matter. Damage capacity 3 is good. It means he's going to be getting 3 close combat attacks if he's in close combat. And he's armed with the Wailing Doom, which is a macro weapon 5+. Again, that's okay. His assault weapons are extra attack with a macro weapon, so pretty good, but he's free. So this is the thing. He is free. Good in melee. Good armor. He gets summoned into the game, so you don't have to worry about his slow speed being too much of an issue. The cons with the Avatar is, he's only around for 1 turn. Basically, you summon him in, then he's gone. He's slow, obviously. His assault is really base contact focused, if that makes sense. His firefight's not great, and he's limited in where you can actually summon him. So some negatives there. He's really a 1-turn assault impact piece, but he gets the big tick for me because essentially he's free, provided you're going to take a Farseer in the army to summon him in. The Court of the Young King. This is basically a character upgrade that comes with the Avatar, so works in tandem with him, and it basically gives an extra attack with assault weapons. So, I mean, why not take this? The pros and cons. You might forget about it. That's the con, because I've played many a game where I forget about the Court of the Young King actually being in the army, and you just don't even do those extra attacks. But yeah, it's just a close combat buff for your Avatar, really. All right, the Autarch. Now we're starting to get interesting. This is a character upgrade. The Autarch is the Supreme Commander. He's got his invulnerable save and he's inspiring, but that Supreme Commander gives you that reroll that you're going to need on an activation roll or maybe on a rally roll. The Autarch basically, you could choose if you basically, it's a 50-point upgrade to 1 Exarch in an Aspect Warrior squad. So he's essentially 75 points because an Aspect Exarch costs 25. So, and if he's ranged or close combat, we'll just determine what he's got, either an extra attack in either, but close combat, he does get that macro weapon special rule. The reroll is the big pro with him. I spelt leader wrong there. He's got the reroll. His commander and leader special rules that come with the Supreme Commander is really good. He's pretty good. The negative are the cost, but again, it's not too bad. It's cheaper than a Space Marine pays for their Supreme Commander. I suppose the other cost is it has to go with Aspect Warriors. You can't add this guy to Guardians, say. And he could be in the thick of it. If you're adding a close combat Autarch into the game, you probably want him in melee, so there's a good chance he's going to get targeted by the enemy to get rid of that reroll that you've got. And the reroll is really important for Eldar because of that double initiative retained. It's really important. His role, I would say he's the real leader of the army in a lot of ways. So he's got a big tick from me. I think he is well worth it, provided you bring in an Aspect Warrior squad. The Exarchs, another character upgrade, and they bring Inspiring, which is always good in an assault, and you choose to either have one as a ranged or as a close combat weapon, and they'll both give you an extra attack, but a slight buff again on the close combat weapon one, with the macro weapon. And you can have up to 2 of these in every aspect warrior formation as upgrades, and they're 25 points each, so pretty cheap. Listen, they add extra melee or firefight, that's the pro of them, and you can chop and change to what you need. So pretty cheap, and you get 2 of them. So the cons are you can really start ballooning out the formation cost with other upgrades. So you just got to be careful. They are cheap, but you start chucking 2 in and upgrading one to an autarch, you start really putting some cost into an aspect warrior squad. And one of the negatives about them is that they're not actually leaders. They seem like they should be, but they're not leaders, not for 25 points, so that's a negative. So they're just, the role of them, they just give you a minor buff, really, because they don't have that leader rule. It's just an extra attack, generally, you're looking at there. So they do get the tick, and we'll keep moving on. All right, into Guardians. You're looking at the baseline infantry here. Some things to point out. Normal speed, but armor, no armor. So these guys prefer to be in cover, if you can, okay? Close combat's atrocious. Firefight is decent. There's nothing really special about these guys. 150 points will buy you 7 units and a Farsi unit on top. Plus, you got upgrades then to increase that cost. They are cheap. That's a pretty good price for 8 units, essentially. And they are decent in a firefight. So, lots of upgrades, lots of flexibility. Pretty good coming out of the webway, I would say. Probably not great to put in a transport. Just starts getting a bit too costly for a Guardian squad. But as a webway kind of upgraded unit coming out can be quite good. The cons are that armor. They are fairly mediocre overall, and 150 points, but they start to really increasing their cost when you start throwing some upgrades on them, and they're not very fast, so they are going to just slug it out, which is at odds with a lot of what the Eldar army is about. So, general line infantry, good for holding objectives and just kind of getting in the way, maybe just annoying the enemy a bit. So they do get a tick. And the Farsi basically is part of the Guardian formation. That's your 8th unit that you get. And he's got a good armor save there at 4+, and pretty decent stats overall. He's a commander, so he can really bring the troops in and attack a bit better, which is good. He's got the Farsight special rule, so if he retains the initiative, he doesn't get the -1. And also he'll let you do the double initiative retain, which is always going to be helpful. You're looking at an extra macro weapon attack in base contact in close combat, which is good. So part of the Guardian unit. The pros are he's included in the unit, so there's no additional cost, obviously. Farsight is a really effective rule. A really effective rule. I think you need a Farsi in your army somewhere, and you probably will have one. Pretty good stats, flexible, and he summons the avatar in, so that's a very good point for the Farsi. The cons with the Farseer is he's stuck in that slow unit, and this basically hurts your avatar summon. You can't really summon the avatar in anywhere, on a turn. It has to be close to this guy, so that's not great. And potentially vulnerable because he's stuck with the Guardians, and the Guardians are not great. So, missing that leader rule. All right. So again, same kind of role as the Guardians, but gets a tick. Heavy weapons platforms. Now, these are a free upgrade for up to 3 of your Guardian units in the formation. It lets you change your Guardians, but basically downgrades their firefight to a 5+, but it gives you a ranged attack instead of just your small arms attack, and that's an AP5, AT5, which is not bad at 30 centimeters. That's pretty good when you're comparing that to, say, Marine squad attacks. So you can get 3 of these in the unit for free. So I think that's definitely a worthwhile upgrade. They're free. They add decent range firepower for no real downsides. And they give you just a bit more flexibility in the unit. So Guardian stats are the cons, but, kind of worse. There's low mobility. And the range is short. It's okay, but it's not great. Basically they're just there to make Guardians into ranged units, which is good. So I would take them pretty much every time I take Guardians, unless I've got a bit of a different plan going. Support weapon platforms. All right, 50 points for 3 units to be added to Guardian formations. This is pretty good, I think. So support weapon platforms, again, you got similar Guardian stats, but just even more atrocious now. but you get that distort cannon, which is a macro weapon 5+, so a bit better than your heavy weapon support squads. They're cheap, which is a real pro, and that's a decent firepower buff onto a Guardian unit. If you throw 3 of these onto the unit, that's pretty nice. Makes them pretty good. Again, Guardians basically low speed, short range, same as the other guys, but a better attack. And they're just a good buff if you're really looking at a defensive formation for your Guardians. Now you chuck 3 of these in, 3 of the heavy weapon platforms, and all of a sudden you've got a bit of firepower coming out of that squad. So a big tick there as well. The Wraith Guard. This is another upgrade for the Guardians, and you can have 2 to 3 units added to your Guardian formation at 50 points each. So getting a bit pricey here, but you're getting a 4+ save with a reroll for the reinforced armor. The Fearless rule is okay, but nothing special. Decent close combat and firefight there, and you're just getting a couple of extra tougher guys in the formation with a bit of a decent attack. It's a macro weapon 5+ at 15, so it's not going to rock your world. But again, you're starting to see you can really chuck a lot of firepower into the Guardian squads, but you're starting to add a lot of cost up. 3 of these will cost the same as another 8 Guardians, basically. So, but they give you a little bonus in the firefight with an extra macro weapon attack. So I do like them. Solid firepower buff, and can just make a nice, tough unit there. Short range on them is a con. They're stuck being slow again, and just escalates the cost of the unit overall very quickly, I think. So be careful of that. And I think when you're thinking of the Wraith Guards, if you're just looking at a longer range defensive unit, maybe don't take the Wraith Guards, because they really are close quarters. So if you're going to charge your Guardians straight into the guts, it might be worthwhile taking a few of these just to put a bit of pressure on in the close quarters sense. So listen, I've given these a bit of a mixed kind of review here. I don't take them a lot just because of the cost. I think I'd rather spend the money on Wraith Lords, which we'll see in a second, but they're okay. So yeah, buyer beware, take them if you like them. All right, Wraith Lords. So you're looking similar to a Wraith Guard kind of stat-wise, but got that 3+ close combat, so that's good. But you are looking at 175 points, so a little bit dearer than the Wraith Guard, and you have to take all 3. You can't add less, but you're getting the reinforced armor, you're getting that Fearless there. Walker, again, it'll have a little impact, but not much. But you're getting the Bright Lance, which I think is good, AT5 with a lance on it, so more firepower again for that Guardian unit. So you're looking at a substantial kind of buff there if they're looking to deal with some AT threats. Power Fist, extra weapon, macro weapon is good. I'd say decent firepower that matches the range of the Guardians. They're tough. They're kind of multi-role. Got that good close close combat attack there, but can still do decent at ranged as well. I think the cons here, the one to point out is the cost. They cost more than the actual Guardian squad. So if you take these with your Guardians, you're more than doubling the cost of the squad. It's something to take into consideration there, because you're looking at 325 points. So it starts adding a lot of cost on pretty quickly. This, I think, makes the Guardians a real threat. I said or super unit. I don't know if it makes them, too much of a super unit, but if you start throwing a lot of the upgrades, the support weapons, the heavy support weapons, the Wraith Lords in there, you can start really turning the Guardians into a super unit. You'll pay for it, but it'll be a big unit with a lot of firepower. So yeah, it could be quite scary. So again, I say the jury is out. I like taking Wraith Lords, but that's more of a bit of a fluff kind of thing more than anything. But I like them, but I understand that cost probably just puts them into the maybe category a bit more. So yeah. Okay, now we come to the Wave Serpent for here, and we're looking at the basic Eldar transport here. Very good speed. It's an armor vehicle, as you'd expect, but 35 centimeter movement is great. 5+ armor is what you'd expect. Close combat, don't worry about, but that 4+ firefight is pretty good when you think about other transports in other armies. Okay, they've got reinforced armor and skimmer, and they can transport one Wraith Guard or 2 infantry units, but you can't take your support weapon platform. So there's a bit of a limitation on Guardian squads with them. They come with the twin Shuriken cannon, which is decent firepower and AP4, and they're going to set you back 50 points each for your aspects, or you're looking 200 points for your Guardian squad to have 4 of them. So yeah, I think that's probably a fair price on them. The pros for them, they give you a firepower buff, great mobility, and reinforced armor increases their toughness a lot. I mean, they're great for units that want to get into assault because they really allow you to get your guys there quickly and reliably. They are expensive, but so they need to go on the right unit. They might be a bit too expensive for your Guardians, and you might not want to put Guardians in something so expensive. So that's something to consider. The role that they give you is an armored cavalry role. A bit of flexibility there. They get those formations where they need to go, but you are paying a premium cost in order to do so. So the jury is out, but not because the Wave Serpent's bad, but because I think it depends on the unit and the purpose of the unit and what you want to achieve. If you're doing a fast assault unit, yeah, sure, I think they're great for it. If you're just cruising around with a few Guardians, yeah, maybe there's a good firepower buff there, but maybe your points are better spent elsewhere. So again, just something to consider. Okay, we now come to the Aspect Warriors, and this is an interesting part. I've kind of broken them down a bit because there are so many different Aspect Warriors and they have different roles on them, so I thought I would split it up a bit. You're looking 300 points for your for 8 units of your choice, and you get the Exarchs and the Autarch that you can put into the unit. The pros of Aspect Warriors in general is that they give you a real flexibility when you're building your army. You can make them your own style. You can add different units here or there. You're not really held to just one type. They do what you want them to do. You can build them out that way. It's a huge flexibility, which cannot be understated. Most armies don't get flexibility like this, which is great to see. The cost is a con. 300 points for 8 units. It starts adding up pretty quick because you have to get all 8 and you have to pay the 300. But yeah, and you may need to buy Wave Serpent transports, which means that the cost is going to go up even more. So yeah, the role is very highly specialized units. So we'll have a look at each one a bit closer now as we go through. But overall, they get a big tick from me. Okay, so we'll start with the Dark Reapers first. You're looking at the Dark Reapers here at a stat line of 15 centimeters, 5+ armor, 6+ close combat, a 3+ firefight. So they've got a really good firefight there. And their ranged attack is surprisingly good. 45 centimeters, 2 shots for the base. It's AP5. So you're looking at your standard cost, 300 points for 8. That is really good firepower. That is the pro there. Really good AP firepower, I should say. If you've got 8 of these guys in a formation together, you're looking at 16 shots at AP5. That's pretty tasty. It's a solid Overwatch defensive unit, I think, which is a shame they can't garrison. But they've got that good range, can put a bit of projection out, just stop a lot of light vehicles or infantry coming in. And if you want to get into an assault with them, you better get them into base contact because they've got that 3+ firefight. They could shred you. They are vulnerable to assaults, and their worst enemy is just vehicles. Just vehicles coming up against them, they can't do a thing about them, and they suck in close combat, so just don't even go there. So they're a defensive force projection unit, I think. Great at just kind of locking down. You think if you've got them in a building, it's 45 centimeters either side, 90 centimeter basic bubble that you have that you can just put a lot of anti-infantry firepower into. So they get a big tick from me. Looking at the Dire Avengers, you're looking similar stats here, but a bit better on close combat, a bit worse on firefight. They're a real in the middle kind of unit, so I like them quite personally. The extra attack for their small arms is good, so you're getting 2 firefight attacks basically at 4+. So that's pretty good. A high volume of hits in assault, so 8 of them is going to put out 16 if they're in an assault. So that's pretty good, expecting 8 hits out of that. So not bad at all. And the cons are They just don't have another ranged attack, so you're really got to get that assault. And yeah, again, pretty mediocre in close combat. So they're a firefight support in assault for offensive or defensive uses. So just a real general kind of supportive unit. So I give them the tick as well. I do like them. Just chucking a couple into a unit, into a formation, is great. Your fire dragons, you're looking again pretty mediocre kind of stats, like the Dire Avenger, decent firefight. But what you're looking at with them, they've got that 15 centimeter macro weapon 5 attack. That's okay. It doesn't rock my world, but it's decent. I wouldn't take them just for that. I think you're looking at that firefight value too of a macro weapon attack at 4+ in firefight. That's pretty good. So now you're hitting on a 4+ with a macro weapon attack. So they go best in assault. And I would say that, yeah, as far as pros are, yeah, you're looking at macro weapon attack in a firefight in particular. So good versus armor. Just add a bit of punch to a aspect warrior unit that wants to assault. The low range is the real con that comes with them. And the role for them, targeted firefight, assault versus vehicles, heavy infantry. So yeah, you look, anything that's got a decent armor save, they're pretty good at, or anything, vehicles and all that. But I think you're still looking at an assault with them. I just don't think you're taking them to shoot with that often, not with 15 centimeter range. So the jury's out. I don't get a lot of use out of them, but I can see that they will fulfill a role. Howling Banshees. Okay, now we're looking at something real tasty here. 2+ close combat on your Banshees. And Infiltrator there. So Infiltrator lets you double that charge and lets you get around, lets you go through the zones of control of other people to basically get people in the back into combat. It's a brilliant rule. But that's not all there is to it, because their assault weapons also give them first strike. So they're getting a 2+ hit with double the charge at first strike. You can tell I probably like them. They've got a brilliant close combat value. First strike, lovely. The charge range is good because they get to double it. And yeah, it means they can work without a vehicle, basically. They don't have to get dropped in via a tank. Obviously, probably quicker and safer to come in a tank, but they don't have to. They can struggle versus good armor saves, I would say. And you better get them into close combat because, yeah, Firefighter 5 isn't anything special. But yeah, if you're going up against things with 4+ armor saves, yeah, 2+ is good. Hitting first is good. But, they're blocking 50% on a 4+. Like, you don't have that macro weapon attack unless you're chucking in a couple of Exarchs, which I think you almost have to do with them, and maybe an Autarch too, just to get those extra attacks going in there. I would say they're a decisive assault unit. And if you know where to use them, and you may not take 8 in a formation, but you might have them backed up by some other more supportive type people, like maybe Dire Avengers, to create a really good assault unit. Big tick from me. Shining Spears. Okay, so we're starting to look at a really fast aspect warrior unit here. They are infantry, 35 centimeter move on them, which is really good. 4+ armor's good. 4+ close combat and 5+ fight ain't bad. Mounted and skimmer, the special rules there, so they're really forcing that firefight. Your opponent just using firefight against you in close combat, so that's pretty good. Yeah, you're looking not really a ranged threat on them, but you got the power lances there, which have the lance special rule on it, which removes the reroll, if you remember, on reinforced armor. So they're highly mobile. They're a big unit compared to other skimmers. You got 8 of them, don't forget. And yeah, good armor, got skimmer to help them survive, and the lance it can be really good against vehicles or perhaps heavy infantry like your Terminators and stuff like that. The cons are they're a potential point sink for a single unit. Mounted does limit your movement a bit, and yeah, there's no transports available for these guys. So, but you don't need that. So it's a con, but it's not really a con, is it? So what's the role of these guys? I would say flanking, behind the enemy lines to just threaten the backline formations and armor vehicle units in particular, I think. A lot of players will use, maybe artillery, whirlwinds or basilisks or whatever they're running in the back line to hold their baseline objective. And these guys, if they can punch through down a flank, they're a real threat for any armored vehicle that's probably lightly armored, that's holding an objective. Like, they're a real threat for that. But then they're also a real threat. Like, these guys hit a unit of Lehman Russes or something like that, or even Terminators and Land Raiders. You're removing that rerollable save, so it could be devastating. So, they get the big tick from me, but they've got a very particular role to fill, I think. You're striking Scorpions, 4+ armor, 4+ close combat, 5+ firefight. So again, decent kind of stats there. The thing that separates them from others is that you get the extra attack and base contact. So yeah, a little bit different from your Banshees, which are going to hit first on 2+, but here you're getting 2 lots of 4+. So you do the math and you tell me what you like more. I'd say the pro here is there is a volume of melee attacks. There's got that high potential of hits coming in. 8 of them could technically generate 16 hits. Not realistically, but could. And pretty good armor save on them too. The cons are, versus Banshees or even Shining Spears, they just might be outclassed by the Specialist Aspect Warriors. Are you better off taking these guys as a real kind of general melee guy, or are you better off going, let's specialize into Banshees to hit first against something, or Shining Spears to really target a tough unit? So yeah, they could get outclassed, I think. They're a close combat assault infantry unit. That's essentially what they are. I give them the tick still because I think they are good, but you might find they start getting dropped a bit out of your Aspect Warriors formations. Sweeping Hawks, very fast moving again. Mediocre stats across the line there. Jump packs, not bad. Scout, that's good for spreading them out. Teleport is interesting, so you're just dropping them into battle somewhere. Just got the Las Blaster for small arms, and it looks like I haven't done the bottom quite properly. The pros of them, look, you got some special rules there which are interesting. I think the Scout in particular is one. They're very fast, and you just get those movement shenanigans with Scouts, just being able to spread out more and project over a good area. The cons are mediocre assault and no ranged attack. It's a high cost unit, 300 points for fast moving Scout unit with no transport options. It's tricky. The role on them is a non-combat role, I say. Behind the lines, fast-moving Scout unit. And it's for that reason that I can't recommend them fully, because I think, you're not paying for any combat role there, are you? Like a 4+ firefight on a 5+ armor save, I just think, they're just gonna get into trouble if they start trying to go into a firefight too often. They really need to pick their units that they're messing around with, and I don't give them the big red X, but it's a particular build. You've got to want it. I think they just get a bit outclassed by other specialist units for either scouting or flanking. Warp Spiders, 4+ armor, 4+ firefight, so not bad. They've got the small arms, which is fine, but they've got first strike. That's on the unit, so it doesn't matter if they're in close combat or firefight, they get to go first, so that's really cool. Infiltrator, again, you double that speed going in, and they've got the jump packs too to get over things, so they're pretty good in that sense. First strike on unit, so that's a good pro. Infiltrator, as I said, good armor save, jump packs, all pretty good things. I think the cons are, you're potentially outclassed because when you're looking at this unit, it's got that close combat and firefight threat with Infiltrator and first strike, but you might just get outclassed. Infiltrator is a bit of a mismatch with firefight in some ways. It still doubles your charge range, so that's very effective. But Infiltrator as well, the other half of that rule is you can just break through, get around units, try and get other units in base contact behind the front line. These guys don't really want to do that, not with a 5+ close combat. So I think the problem is that they potentially just get outclassed. If you're looking for someone who's got a firefight threat, do you go something like a Dire Avenger, which can double the shots coming out at a 4+? They don't go first, but it's double the shots. Or, even a Dark Reaper squad, you're getting a 3+ firefight and you're getting a ranged attack. What is it about the Warp Spiders that makes them stand out? It's got to be those special rules there, I think. The first strike, the Infiltrator. But, they're a versatile assault unit, I've put them down as. and they've got a decent threat range as a result. So it's mixed. Again, I don't usually take them. I usually specialize right in, and these guys, while they're good, I just don't know if they're good enough. Now, prove me wrong. Tell me in the comments why I'm so wrong, because I'm very happy to be proven wrong around warp spiders. But I just feel sometimes they're just easier left behind for other things. All right, we're out of the aspect warriors now, so we've completed the aspects. So we're going back into other units, and we're looking at jet bikes now. And jet bikes are an infantry unit that moves 35, so again, very fast unit. Fairly mediocre stats, but a firefighter 4 is okay on them. Mounted, skimmer, so, some decent kind of rules there. Just got the small arms on them. 200 points for 6 of them. So you have the option here, because, they are kind of a bit similar to, say, like a Shining Spears, but you got the option of going a bit cheaper. 100 points cheaper to be precise, and you're only getting 6, but still saving 100 points. And you can mix and match with your Vipers in these. So you can add some Vipers in, or go all Vipers, all jet bikes. So you can do a mix and match on them. Highly mobile, and skimmer is surprisingly good at helping them survive in assault, because you're forcing your opponent to use close combat attacks against them. So pick your right assault, and you can firefight them and just basically survive a bit better. So pick the right unit to assault. Cons are no scout rule. Scout would have been really good, maybe too good on them, and no ranged weapons for any kind of pop-up attacks. So they're negatives. But what role would you have your jet bikes fulfilling? They're real objective grabbers. I think is good. Anti-flanking. Anti-flanking. They're a flanking unit too, so really just pushing down a flank and just looking for, I suppose, targets of opportunity. And I found that they can work pretty good in an anti-scout role. Scouts a lot of the time don't have brilliant close combat and firefight values. Some of them do, but a lot of scouts are kind of, mediocre stats. So sometimes hitting a squad of some kind of scouts in an army with your 6 jet bikes might actually be a good call. You might actually find that you can just kind of break open those units, and then, as the Eldar, you can use your hit and run to move an extra 35 after you win an assault. So there's some good options there to clear out scouts and other targets of opportunity on the flank, I think. So they get the big tick from me. And we have a look at the Vipers, which are the cousins to the jet bikes. You can mix and match, as I said, but they're light vehicles. Same kind of stats across the board there, except the firefight's a little worse, and you're looking at skimmers only. But what you're getting here is you're getting that scatter laser. So you're looking, if you want a fast kind of moving unit with an AP5, AT5 attack, this could be good to take. Highly mobile, decent firepower is what separates them. It's not bad. Like, it's not phenomenal, but 200 points for a pretty quick unit with some AT5 attacks coming in and out is not bad overall. Light vehicle is a huge con, I think, and it's just going to leave them easily hurting against any kind of sustained fire. You just can't face off against anything. Anything decides to shoot at you, you're going to start dropping. You've only got the 5-up armor save too, so you're not looking like something else. Other skimmers that have 4-ups. So yeah, be careful there. Don't try and stand your ground, just run. And remember, you got the hit and run too, which is good. So again, they're another flanking unit, a bit different to the jet bikes, because you're not looking for that assault, I don't think. I think you're more of a harasser on the flanks, just kind of peppering away at different things, using them late game. So just kind of spend 2 or 3 turns maybe just shooting up some scouts or some artillery or something in the back line, and then just swooping in to try and grab objectives in the late game when you just need those fast moving units that are still alive. I think that's a great role for these guys. So take them if you want them. Again, I'd probably rather just go the jet bikes personally, because I find a lot of the time to get a lot out of the Eldar, you want to use that hit and run, and you want to do a double action, which means your AP5 AT5 drops to an AP6 AT6. So yeah, it's not good then. 6 of them, you're going to get 1 hit on average. So yeah, I don't see them too often in my armies. All right, War Walkers, the boys. These guys can garrison, remember? So that's pretty cool, but they're light vehicles too. 20 centimeter move, so kind of in the middle there. That's not bad. Pretty crappy armor, and it's reinforced, which is just bizarre. It's bizarre to have a 6+ rerollable, but it's what they've got, and it leads to some great moments where you can shout a cheer when your Warwalkers roll their saves in melee. It's great. Mediocre close combat and firefight, as you see, but they've got a surprisingly good amount of firepower, particularly AT. So Scatter Laser and Bright Lance. So you could do 2 AT, 5 attacks, one of them being Lance. That's not bad, really. For 150 points for 4 of them, chuck in a couple of extra, 6 for 200, same cost as jet bikes. These are your scouts. Yeah, pretty good, I think. So you got the scout rule, and scout is great. If you haven't used scouts much in Epic Armageddon, you've got to start using them a bit. Spread out with your scouts, get in the way, get that extra zone of control projection around things. Stop people from doing what they want to do, force them to deal with your scouts. Surprisingly good. Get your scouts, just fan them out so that they can be near the enemy's broken units. Just a whole lot of things you can do with scouts. These guys are great at that, and you can garrison, so you can start them up board on Overwatch if you want, and they've got surprisingly good firepower against vehicles. Not phenomenal, but just better than you think they would. The cons are, the raw stats on them, nothing to be impressed by. Reinforced armor is essentially useless, and light vehicle vulnerability is just, usually they're not the biggest threat, so they're not usually the biggest target for the enemy, but you can get them out of place with scout and garrison, so just be careful. The role of them, classic scouts, just harass and deny the enemy the movement they want. Force them to come in and assault you if they have to. Just leave them exposed. It's a great little annoyance to put in front of your enemy. So particularly the units that they don't want to get chaffed up by Warwalkers, make them get chaffed up. So that's why I like the Warwalkers, and I give them the big tick of approval. I'll take them at least one unit every game pretty much, unless it's a really small game where I don't feel I need them. Rangers, okay, so you're looking here at the other scout unit that can also garrison. Again, pretty mediocre scouts. Stats. You really want the scout rule. They've got sniper, which is interesting. So whereas the Warwalkers are kind of your AT guys that are surprisingly good, these are your AP guys that are okay. They're okay. You're looking a really cheap buy-in, but 100 points for 4, and you can essentially double that for the same cost. So you can have 8 for 200, which starts to get a little bit interesting at AP 5 with sniper, because you can really start to try and pick off their commanders and things like that. It's still only a 30 centimeter range, but so let's not go crazy and think that they're going to be sniping the enemy commander across the board, because anyone that wants to avoid them can. So, but the sniper rule and scout are what you're really looking at, and they're a very cheap throwaway unit. So maybe 2 units of these are better than buying a squad of 6 Warwalkers, They're just annoying, just to chaff up people, just spread them out as scouts again. Basically you get what you pay for, cheap, mediocre. You need to get them in cover probably, I would say. Get them into some nice hard cover, some ruins, some whatever it is, just to get them a 4+ save, which makes them quite good then. But they're easy to clear out too. You can just send a normal tactical squad in to deal with these guys in assault, and you're not really going to be two-faced. So, make sure they're not left alone unless you just want to sacrifice them. And their role, they're just a harasser, basically. You can try the character sniping if you get the opportunity, but it's not a strategy to plan for, I wouldn't think. But you're basically looking, chuck a unit of these on either flank just to really just get in the way. They get the tick from me, but that's mainly because they're cheap. Okay, we're getting into some tanks now. An armor vehicle called the Falcon, which is great. 35 centimeter move, excellent. 5+ armor save, that's okay. It's okay. Firefight's decent, but you're looking, they can transport. So they're skimmers, and they can transport. So one enemy unit can be transported. One infantry unit can be transported. Can't take your support weapon platforms, and you can't take Wraith Guard. And you can't have jump packs on mounted. So you're looking, a lot of your basic kind of troopers can go in these, really. So they're cool, I think. The weapons on them are pretty good. So I like a squad of Falcons in my army, just like, when you're looking at it, pulse laser there, 45 centimeter, 2 shots at AT4. Your scatter laser is AP5, AT5 at 30 centimeters. So again, you're looking probably the AT on that. And you get 5 of these boys for 250. And you can mix and match with fire prisms in there. You can also get an extra one for 50 points. So yeah, 50 points each, up to 6 of them in a formation. They're highly mobile. They've got some good AT firepower. And the reason skimmers are good now, like when you're looking at the tanks as opposed to things like jet bikes and that, is you get those pop-up attacks that happen with your skimmers, which is really good. So pop-up attacks with decent ranged weapons all of a sudden starts to actually mean something. You can shoot out. Your 30 centimeter attack is probably not as good as a pop-up attack, but your 45 centimeter shots, doing pop-up attacks with the hit and run rule, it actually makes them pretty good now. So you can pop up, shoot, move. It's all fun. And you get a little transport capability if you need it. The cons, the AP firepower on them is useless. Like, don't be fooled for that unless you're shooting a mixed unit. They do feel fragile, I find. Falcons, 6 of them for 300. Keep them back. Like, don't get them up close because they will die. And you just feel it, I think. I know statistically it's probably very similar to a lot of units, but they just feel fragile, I think, with that 5+ armor save of 50 points each. What role do you see your Falcons in? I think you're kind of a medium range anti-tank harasser. You're really using that hit and run rule with your pop-up attacks. Don't try and stand your ground. Don't think you can go toe-to-toe with Lehman Russes. Don't think you can just stand there and outshoot your Predator Destructors. I think the last kind of ones. Use the mobility, use the terrain, use your pop-up attacks, hit and run if you can. Just do that. Even doing a double action hit and run, taking your AT to 5 and 6, do that instead. Just really harass. Don't stand your ground with them. Keep moving, okay? And you'll find they're pretty good. Get a big tick from me. I usually find at 3,000 points, I'll probably have 1 squad of these for sure. Fire prisms, you're looking very similar. Firefight's not as good. Still got that skimmer rule there. You're looking now about your prism cannon. So you're paying a premium on this. You have to upgrade a Falcon to a fire prism for 15 points. So you're looking 65 points each. And you can have up to 6 of them in a formation, just because it's basically the Falcon formation. And your prism cannon is shooting out 60 centimeters. So that's a really good range on a tank. That's really good. AP4, decent. AT2, brilliant. Lance, excellent. AT2 with Lance is just really good on these guys, because you got to think about it. You got a highly mobile unit formation here, or unit. Excellent AT firepower with a long range, with a Lance attack on it, and then you've got your pop-up attacks and your skimmer rule to hit and run, right? So you can hit and run, you can move out, shoot 60, move back. So that's giving you almost a 100 centimeter threat range on these guys against vehicles. Pretty good. Not bad. Like, they're not macro weapon attacks, so they're not broken. If you pop out, shoot up the Lehman Russes, pop back, Lehman Russes are still getting 1 armor save at 4+. So, you might find it's still tough to crack some of these bigger, really tough units. But you'd be surprised how much fear they will cause in your enemy, knowing that on a 2+, they're not getting to re-roll those saves. So it's pretty impressive. And I think the Fire Prism really feels like the Eldar way of playing. That really, I'm not saying it's fun for your opponent all the time. Don't hear that. But they really kind of typify the way that the Eldar should play. Again, the AP firepower, it's decent, but it's a distraction. If you're shooting these at AP4, then you have no vehicle targets on the board, I would think, at that range. At that point. Because even double moving and then shooting, so that's 130 centimeter threat range, is worth it on an AT3+ against any vehicle in the game. Is worth it with a Lance attack over shooting AP, unless you really need it. So it's a distraction, and they do feel fragile for the price, like the Falcons. Long range AT specialists, this is what they are: hit and run. Brilliant. Take them every game. Firestorms. So your Firestorms, very similar to your last two tanks. In fact, they go in the same formation, and they're a bit of a transport there, but you can basically replace up to 2 Falcons in a formation with Firestorms, and Firestorms essentially are your anti-air tank. Okay, so a Firestorm battery, you're looking at a 45 centimeter range, 2 shots at AP5, AT5, so that's not bad, and that marries up quite well with your Falcons. But they've got an AA4+. 2 shots at AA4+ at 45 centimeters is a really good flak attack, basically. It's decent range, and AA4+ is really good. So, yeah, really good. Pop-up attacks with them, good firefight value, all that. They just marry well. They are limited in what units they can go in, so they have to go with your Falcons or your Prisms. And the problem is, you chuck them in with a Prism, you could have another Prism instead. Chuck them in with Falcons, that's fine, but you're probably not having 3 or 4 units of Falcons running around. So your 45 centimeters might actually, you have to choose where to use your Falcons well, I would say, to make sure that you can get a good coverage over your army with them. So yeah, a bit limited in where they can go, but they're just basically a mobile anti-air unit. Big tick. Would usually run at least 1 in a Falcon squad, maybe 1 in a Prism squad, but yeah, just depending what I think I'm going up against. Night Spinners, this is your artillery. So again, very similar stats to the last few units. They do have a transport rule. Never done it. All right, Night Spinner, 45 centimeter, not great. 1 barrage point, good. Indirect fire, so double that to 90 centimeters. So it's a decent artillery, pretty standard, I would say. But it does have Disrupt, which is a really, really good rule, I think. So basically, Disrupt is a special rule, which means that, when you do your hits, you cause a blast marker, even if they save. So you don't have to wait for casualties. You just look at how many you hit. So it's not bad. The thing is, it's probably not going to be phenomenal in a unit of 3. And you're paying 175 points for those 3. Pop-up attacks are useless on them. They're not an impact piece as far as the Eldar army is concerned, and they just, you might just find you'd rather take other units. Like, they don't mesh well, I don't think, with the play style. If you're keeping them still, which you probably should be to get the indirect fire, double the range, that's not how the Eldar generally play with their vehicles, I think. And you're really just using them like some, whirlwinds or something at that point. And you could probably put those points elsewhere to try and get a more impactful piece, a more specialized piece. Mobile artillery, cool. The jury's out. I do run them sometimes, but, not all the time. So, all right, we're getting into the super heavy tanks, and these things are cool. These are big war engines, and you've got a few different types of them. So they're like your really big kind of Falcons and stuff. Got your Scorpion tank. It's a war engine, 25 centimeter move, so not bad for a big heavy tank. 5+ armor, doesn't thrill me, but it is reinforced, so that's okay. And they've got damage capacity 3. So they're fragile, but okay as well. Pretty mediocre stats for assault. But you're not looking to assault with these guys. You're looking at this the Scorpion Twin Pulsar. 50, I think I've got the range wrong there. I think it's a 75 centimeter range, so my apologies on the range on them. So just correct that. You don't have to put that in the comments, guys. Just realize. So it's a 75 centimeter range at 2 shots macro weapon 2+. That's pretty impressive. 2-shot macro weapon 2+. The Shuriken Cannon's there as well for your little AP5. But you are paying 250 points for one of these. And you can take a formation of up to 3 of them. What are the pros here? They are highly mobile. Like, it doesn't seem like it at 25 centimeters, but for what they are, that's pretty fast. We've got an amazing range at 75 centimeters. And very reliable power. The 2 times macro weapon 2+ is very reliable. And guys, remember, pop-up attacks, hit and run attacks is great. And you could just do crazy things with that. When you start thinking, I can just poke my head up here and gun someone down, and back I go 75 centimeters away. It's brilliant. Their firepower is a double-edged sword, I think. So that's the con for them. It's very reliable, but it's limited to 2 shots, macro weapon 2. Assuming you hit with 2 of those, sure, that's 2 tanks off in a unit. 2 predators gone out of a unit. That's pretty good. 250 points for this unit, but that's expensive. So it's good, but yeah, is it great? I don't know. It's limited in how much damage it can actually cause. They're not Titan killer, multiple wound attacks. So yeah, I've found I've probably started using them a bit less. They're a long-range sniper tank, and sometimes I used to take them in units, but formations of multiples, but now maybe I just run one if I've got extra points, just to kind of go, okay, you can snipe something you need to. You can hit that artillery unit, pretty reliably and take 1 or 2 of them off and give them another blast marker and break them or something like that, I think, at the moment I'd run them 1 of them for a long-range sniper. So he still gets the big tick, but I find after you use them a while, you realize how limited they are in their firepower. The Cobra. Okay, so the Cobra is an interesting one. I've had mixed results with this guy. So he's pretty well the same as the last tank, except you're looking at the weapon loadout being different. You've got the big Cobra D cannon, which is a crazy good gun. It's only 30 centimeter range, so you're really going in for a close range fight with this guy. 3 barrage points out the front. Ignore cover, macro weapon. Ignore cover macro weapon is surprisingly good on barrage attacks. And remember, you can have 3 of these. It can be 9 barrage points, so you're getting the extra templates. You're hitting pretty reliably on 4+s probably. It's pretty impressive. You can do hit and runs. You can do pop-up attacks with them still, so it's not bad. And you've got the Eldar missile launcher there too, which is decent, but it gives you a little AA as well. Just a little cheeky AA shot. So, it's okay. So highly mobile, reinforced armor, all the normal stuff. Got some devastating close range firepower, I think. And it really favors that aggressive mobile playstyle of the Eldar. The firepower, it can be mixed. I've seen it just murder marine armies before. So it can be really good like that. Just that macro weapon ignoring cover. Expensive. And that range of 30 centimeters is really hard to, really difficult to work with sometimes, depending on terrain too. Because they're not tough, these guys. They're just like the Scorpion. They'll go down pretty quickly to any kind of concentrated anti-tank fire. Like 5+ re-rollable is worse than a Lehman Russ. I only got 3 wounds. If you have a couple of these in a unit, you lose 1, the other one breaks. So yeah, not very tough, and that range means they have to be up close. So maybe don't let them fight by themselves. The one thing I didn't mention with the Cobra D cannon is you can use it as a macro weapon 3+, Titan Killer D6. And that can be good. So you can have one of these as a real kind of anti-Titan kind of weapon. And I think they fulfill that role a bit better than the Scorpion tanks. Scorpion's got that range on these guys, but that Titan Killer D6 is phenomenal. So I think they've got a good bit of flexibility, but again, really hard to use at that range. Pop-up attacks almost useless at that range a lot of the time. So yeah, just be careful. They're a real close quarters impact piece. I give them a big tick because if they go off, they go off. They're crazy good. Storm Serpent. Okay, so you're looking again very similar to your last 2 tanks. We'll go through the weapons first. It's got basically a big Falcon. It's got 2 AT3s and an AT5. So, some pretty decent AT firepower coming out, but not phenomenal, not as good as your Scorpion. But what are you really buying this tank for? You're using it for the Webway Portal special rule. So it has a Webway Portal basically in it. It counts as a Webway Portal. And formations that are consisting completely of infantry, light vehicles, or armored vehicle units with the Walker ability can use the Storm Serpent's Webway Portal to enter play. So you can bust out units from one of these guys. So if you're taking an Aspect Warrior squad that's coming on, or you're taking Guardians or light vehicles, whatever it might be, you can basically bust out of the Webway Portal on a tank that can move 25 centimeters. And You can come out of your actual webway portal that you've got on the board, and you can come out of multiple Storm Serpents, so you can really build a theme around this. I think you're taking them like they're a general tank, basically. Outside of the webway portal, I don't think they're actually valuable. I don't think you'd take them over a Cobra or a Scorpion because they don't specialize in anything. But they specialize in the webway portal, and again, that's a very Eldar thing. So they're tactically flexible, but I think as a pro, but I think without the webway, that would be a con. So they're expensive, and there's an unclear role that doesn't help in a highly specialized army if you're not using the webway portal. So I should probably put that caveat there. Their role, I can't work it out if you're not using the webway. And the firepower is decent, but for 250 points, like give me a squad of Falcons any day of the week, right? So the role of them, webway portal is definitely it, or a multi-role tank, but I think that's probably a bit of a crap kind of spot for them. So they're a mixed bag, and it's not because they're no good. I just think take them if you want that webway portal, basically. All right, the Void Spinner, and this one could be a bit scandalous. You're looking similar again, another super heavy, all the regular stuff, but you're looking at 275 points now. So you got an extra 25 points. What do you get for that? 3 barrage points at 60 centimeters. Disrupt again, indirect fire. So it's obviously very comparative to your Night Spinner, isn't it? But 275 points instead, bit better range. Yeah, great range on them. In fact, if you're indirect firing 120 centimeters, that's really good for artillery. It's a highly mobile artillery too. It's very expensive, and it competes with the cheaper Night Spinners. And I don't know that it wins out, guys. You know, what are you getting? A bit of extra range? I don't know what else for an extra 100 points. Like, you know, and this thing can get crit still. It's got reinforced armor, but realistically, it shouldn't be getting shot. Neither should your Night Spinners. It's long range, mobile, heavy artillery is where I put it at. But even then, like, I think you're probably having to take 2 or 3 of them to call it heavy artillery. Otherwise, it's just artillery. I'm going to give this the big red X of death here. I'm sorry, guys. If you're a Void Spinner fan, I've just disappointed you, but I can't take them. I can't take them. I just don't see the point of them in the army. They've got all the negatives of the Night Spinners, or all the things that make the Night Spinners me unsure on the Night Spinners, but just got it even worse. It's heavy artillery. I'm not a fan. Maybe if it ignored cover, come back and talk to me then. But it's not. So yeah, I'm afraid I don't run them. All right, Titans. Now we're getting into the big boys. All right, your Revenant Titan. This is your light scout Titan for the Eldar. You're looking at War Engine at 35 centimeter speed, so really fast there, guys. 5+ save. It is not reinforced, but let's just remember that. 4+ close combat, 4+ firefight. You should barely ever use that armor save because you have a hollow field. Hollow field, you gotta love them. Jump pack, so you're going to be getting around a bit easier, but you're still hindered because you're a walker. Fearless is okay. Critical hits against them, you just lose your hollow save, but you're probably dead at that point anyway because you get damage capacity 3. So you get 2 of these bad boys for 650, and on each of them you're going to get 2 Revenant pulse lasers and 2 Eldar missile launchers. The Eldar missile launchers are okay. They're not phenomenal. They give you a bit of light AA. That's what I think. Yeah, maybe some AP and AT, but nah, not much going on there. You're looking at your Revenant pulse lasers, 45 centimeters, and 2 macro weapon 3+ attacks. That's pretty good. You got 2 of these for 650. That's 4 macro weapon 3+. That's not bad. It's not bad. Again, you could get better weapons, better shots on Scorpions for 500, 2 of them. So what are you looking at? What's the pros of these guys then? They're mobile Titans. They're very quick Titans. You got to think this is the speed of a jet bike. These guys are super fast. Got a good weapons loadout, I think. Decent close combat and firefight. Not brilliant, but decent. Hollow field is great. 3+ save against anything is brilliant. Walker isn't that restrictive for them. These guys can step over terrain up to their knee, and their knees are pretty high, depending what kind of model you're using for them, because there's different versions of them, but in each of them, their knees are pretty high. Light AA coverage, yeah, it's a pro. It's not much of one, but it's one. And they're just generally good against most units. The cons are they can't stand up to sustained fire like other Titans, so don't test it. No reinforced armor too, so you fail that hollow field save, you're gone. You're just losing them. So they are expensive too, almost the cost of a Phantom. Chuck another 100 points on, you got a Phantom Titan. Drop 150, you got 2 Cobras or 2 Scorpion tanks. So they occupy a real awkward point cost, I think. And they're well designed in that sense. They're not too dear, they're not too cheap. Probably right. What kind of role do I see them running in? I think they operate best on the flanks as a bit of a strike unit. And I think this is a lot of the Scout Titans kind of operate in this space, like your Warhound Titans fulfill essentially the same kind of role. You don't want them trying to punch up the middle most of the time because they just can't stand the heat that will get brought on them if they're in the middle. But yeah, they're pretty good on the side. You can run a flank. You can usually deal with most things on a flank. Don't get them bogged down with anything crazy that's just, chaff. But they can just turn in on a dime and strike what they need to. So I think they are great for that. And if you're doing that with them, I think you get the big green tick from me on them. Your Phantom Titan. So you're looking 750 points now, but this is a big boy. 25 centimeter move, which is good for a big Titan. 5+ armor, your close combat and your firefighter 3+, so pretty good. 6 damage capacity, that's not phenomenal for a big Titan. It's good, it's okay. It's not phenomenal. It's okay, but you got to remember you got that 3+ armor save your hollow field, so it's a little bit misleading in a sense. Fearless, pretty standard on the big Titans. The leader is good. Just be getting rid of those blast markers. Reinforced armor, so you still get that 5+ save if you need it. And you got the Walker, but again, you got pretty high knees on them. Hollow field goes down on a crit effect as well. All right, the weapon loadout on this boy is interesting because you got choices: 2 pulsars or a pulsar and a power fist. Pulsars are basically they're kind of like upgun Scorpion tanks. So one of them will give you 2 shots at macro weapon 2, like a Scorpion, but Titan killer. So that's a little bit more interesting. So good luck trying to save against that. 75 centimeter range. So 2 of them would be 4 of them coming out with the Titan killer. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think the Power Fist is probably a better option personally, but maybe that's just me. And my Titan is actually modeled with twin pulsars, so But your Power Fist is putting out 6 attacks, AP4, AT4. That's surprisingly good at 30 centimeter range. Short range, but that's a lot of dice still coming out. But you're looking at assaults for this. You're looking in a firefight, you're getting an extra 3 attacks. So 4 3+ attacks. Oh, sorry, not 4. You'll be getting your 6 + 3, so 9 attacks in the firefight on 3s. Assault weapons, you're getting an extra 2, so you're looking at 8 attacks. But these extra attacks are Titan killer D3s. So this guy can bring a lot of damage in close combat, I think. So very interesting. And he's got a bit of speed, so he could get there. Twin Eldar missile launchers. So these are like Eldar missile launchers, but better. And the AA on these guys goes up to 5+. So all of a sudden, this ain't bad, AA 5+ isn't bad. So I like this quite a bit. 2 of them there. This gives another kind of, if you're running one of these, you have to, you can actually start dropping out other AA potentially, going, okay, this guy's going to have 2 AA5 shots. Maybe I don't need the interceptors. Maybe I can drop one of my Firestorm batteries elsewhere because I got this guy. So nice little bonus. He's a mobile, heavy Titan, I would say. Good weapons loadout, good close combat, firefight, hollow field as well. Got that AA thing, AA coverage, like I said, the leader. They're tougher than they look, and you can run them 2 different ways, which is nice. Either that close assault guy or just sitting back and just shooting stuff. But yeah, pretty good. They are pricey, and the real linchpin of these Titans and Eldar Titans, because they can still do hit and run attacks, don't get me wrong, but that hollow field is what they rely on, these big suckers. Just, yeah. And the range shots are Titan killers, but they're not multi-wound weapons. So, yeah, you can get 4 macro weapon 2s out, but you start running into the same problem that I had with the Scorpions, where you start realizing after a while that you're just not doing enough damage. You come up against a Warlord Titan or something, 4 shots, yeah, you do 3 on him. Great. he's got a whole lot of shielding and everything, and it's really tricky to bring down some of the big stuff without getting in there with your power fist potentially. What's his role? Just battlefield supremacy in general. He's just there to dominate, I think. Wherever he is, people will be, they're a little bit scared, a little bit apprehensive, and he can kind of just dominate and project force and potentially lead some really big assaults. So yeah, he gets a big tick from me. I enjoy using him a lot. Your Warlock Titan, so very similar again to your Phantom, but you're chucking an extra 100 points on, and now you can only take one of these as well. Looking very similar rules, except this guy gets Farsight. So this guy can retain the initiative. He can let you retain the initiative twice, and he doesn't get the -1 if he's retaining. So pretty interesting there, I think. Fearless, Hollowfield, Inspiring, so he's a little bit better in Assault as well. Leader, Reinforced Armor, Walker, standard stuff. Okay, his weapon loadout, again, is interesting because you have a Psychic Lance. You have to take it. 30 centimeter range, 3 barrage points, Disrupt, Ignore Cover, Titan Killer D3. That's a lot to take in your brain. So you're doing barrage points. So you're doing blast markers. Only 3 of them, but still, that's not bad. You're doing Disrupt, so any hits that you cause, regardless of saves, does damage. Saves don't really matter too much because you ignore cover and you got Titan Killer D3. So the multi-wound is pretty interesting there. You can put out a chunk of damage potentially on some pretty beefy units. But you get him into an assault and it's giving you 2 extra attacks in Firefight with Titan Killer D3. That's pretty tasty. Then you get the choice of a Pulsar, so the 2+ macro weapon Titan Killer, or a Power Fist. So you take a Power Fist, now you're getting those 6 shots at AP4, AT4, or more importantly, you're starting to get even more attacks. So if you take the Power Fist and you decide to just go at Firefight, well, all of a sudden you've got 5 extra attacks at your 3+ Firefight. 2 of them are going to be doing Titan Killer D3. So that's 11 attacks. That's pretty cool. I like it. And the Power Fist does Titan Killer D3 in base contact. So all of a sudden, you got doing Titan Killer no matter which way it goes. And you got your 2 Eldar missile launchers, twin Eldar missile launchers there, same as a Phantom. Pros. There's a lot of pros here. Had to shrink the font. I think he's great in assaults. Psychic Lance and a Power Fist is just, I think that's a great loadout to try and get the most out of him. I think if you're going the Pulsar, I just think you're probably not going to get as much out of him. You're probably not as impactful as you want him to be. And he's got that inspiring special rule there, which I think basically says you want to get into close assault. And I think Farsight also means you want to get into that assault too, because Farsight lets you do that double initiative and you can just ignore, you're basically going on a 1+ to activate, and then you can ignore any negatives for retaining initiative. So someone can move up, someone else can then move up, and then you can assault into bring those other ones in as firefight units supporting you. So you can really set up some brilliant ones with this guy. The cons, 850 points. That's huge. And again, 6 health relying on a 3+ save. He's really relying on that Hollowfield. What's his role? I think he's just the ultimate brawler. He is just, if you're paying 850, the pressure is on you to get your points back. So get him in there, get him in the thick of it, and just go to town. Take on whoever you want to try and take on. Because remember, a Hollowfield works in close combat. Okay, you're in base-to-base contact with that Warlord Titan. His shields don't work against you, his void shields, but yours do. Your Hollowfield does work. So just get him up the guts, smash apart whatever you need to. Great fun. Big tick from me. All right, so we're getting into some aircraft here. We'll start moving through these a bit quicker. We got the Vampire Raider. You're basically looking at a transport vehicle here, 2 pulse lasers, so not bad anti-tank. You scatter laser. You're going to try and use the anti-tank on that, just to match up with your pulse laser. So, kind of Feels a bit like a Falcon in a lot of ways. Damage capacity 2, reinforced armor. So you're looking, same thing as the Thunderhawk gunship. It's basically a transport that can come in for 200 points and do your air assaults. Drop your, I would say, aspect warriors, because they can transport 8 infantry. Drop your Banshees, drop your Dire Avengers, whatever it is you want in to do a close range air assault. So pretty good on that. So the pros on these, you can deliver your precious aspect warriors where they need to go, and you got decent AT firepower. So, you know, maybe this meshes well with your fire dragons or something to do a little, you know, anti-vehicle assault against those, I don't know, Lehman Russes. The cons, they're fragile and they're risky, because you've got to remember these guys, when they come in, they're carrying their 200 points, they're carrying 300 points of aspect warriors, possibly another 100 points worth of upgrades with your exarchs. So you're looking anywhere up to 600 points on the one vampire. If that gets shot down, which it does, I've had it happen before, you know, 2 damage capacity isn't much with the 5+ rerollable. It's not much at all. So you get a bit of, you get some interceptors up on cap, or you get a bit of flak guarding where you want to go, and all of a sudden you're second guessing, do you go in or not? For good reasons. If you go in, you might get shot down and lose, you know, 600 points. If you're playing a 3,000 point game, that's a big chunk of your force gone. So they're an assault transport. That's what they're used for. If you're not doing that, don't take them. I give them a big tick, because I think they are great if you're doing that in your force. If you want to assault in, they're really good for that. Just got to be careful. Your Nightwings, these are your interceptors basically. 4+ armor save is good on them, coming in as fighters, so pretty quick. Get them up on cap early in the turn and basically have them there ready to go. AA 5+ on both guns. Remember, one of them is a lance, so that's good when you're shooting down other interceptors or bombers. Yeah, not bad. 3 for 300 points. Pricey, very pricey. So what's the pros? Respectable firepower. It's respectable. It's not brilliant. Good on cap. Good at good at doing what they're meant to do. AA 5+ goes to a 4+ when you're shooting against other air vehicles. So yeah, pretty decent in that. I'd say they're expensive. 3 for 300. Like the fact you have to have 3 and they're 100 points each. Yeah, and these are a real poor use of your resources if your enemy brings no aircraft. It's an absolute... I've turned up and played games before where you got a squad of these and they take no aircraft, and you just go, that is a waste of time. AP4, AT4, you are just like, you're almost just better off leaving them back in the hangar at that point. Interceptor aircraft, anti-aircraft, basically, if you don't really know much about the terminology for fighters and that. Should you take them or not? They're decent, but I don't know. I don't find they're mandatory, because I think, you're looking at things like firestorms. If you're running a couple of them in your army, maybe you've got a Titan, a Phantom, or a Warlock with some, some AA firepower. Is that enough? Maybe that's enough. Maybe you don't need the interceptors, because you're going to remember on cap. You will know that when I bring the video out for aircraft on cap, you can't actually shoot down their interceptors that are intercepting your bombers or your raiders. So these are good anti-aircraft, but really only against their bombers or their transports. So yeah. Phoenix bombers. Okay, so we're looking 3 of these for 325, so a little bit more pricey than your other ones. 5+ armor. Okay, reinforced. Not bad. You're looking just a real kind of mixture of firepower here. Your AP4 twin Shuriken Cannon AA5 is okay, but I don't know. If you're putting these guys in an anti-aircraft role, don't. Pulse laser 2 AT4s is not bad with lance. Again, you're looking very much like a Falcon at that point. You got your Night Spinner, but that's interesting. You get a little bomb basically coming out of them. So it's a real mixture. They're really looking for something particular to hit. Maybe you're going to hit your AT, and I think that's the prime one. But yeah, light vehicles or mixed units could be good to target as well. good array of firepower. They're good at full strength. You start losing guys and you realize just kind of how crappy they are on their own. So they're expensive and they're just vulnerable if you're facing a mismatched AA game. So if you take your Phoenix Bombers and you just find that they've just got too much flak out, or they've just got some real good interceptors, these guys will just spend most of the game just sitting there not doing anything or just getting shot down. So, good luck in that case. And I would say they're a light bomber. Decent kind of decent loadout there, but not really doing too much of anything. So they get a big tick from me. I think I'd take them more than I'd take the interceptors, but again, not my favorite thing. And spacecraft, just quickly, 150 points for this Wraith ship. Listen, I don't really take this guy. You got orbital bombardment or the pinpoint attack. They're both pretty lackluster for 150 points. This guy is not a transport, so he can't transport anyone. So just keep that in mind for Planetfall. Fairly cheap for a spacecraft, I guess, but not a transport. Is the attack worth the points? Well, that's not rhetorical, I'll tell you. No, it's not. And the role is just a light bombardment ship. Probably not worth your time. Dragon ship, a little more interesting. Double the cost, but double the firepower. And I have forgotten to put it there, but it is actually a transport. So those notes are incorrect. My apologies for that. Double the firepower, but you actually get the transport. So this is the option you have if you're looking to do Planetfall kind of engagements. But again, I think it's fine. It's a transport ship, basically. It's expensive still. It gets the tick from me, but you really got to want to use it for Planetfall. I don't think you need to with Eldar. Eldar, I think, is more about the webway. So I think you're going to get more usage out of the webway than you will out of Planetfall compared to other armies. All right, so what's the verdict on the Eldar? I know this has been a really long video, so let's go through the verdict here. I won't take too long on this. So what are the strengths of the Eldar? What would you like about these guys if you play them? They're highly mobile units in the army. Outside of kind of your infantry kind of units, your Guardians, your aspects, or most of your aspects, everything's pretty quick. Even your Titans are quick. Fast tanks, fast jet bikes, all that kind of stuff. If you like highly mobile things with hit and run special rule, this is for you. They're very specialized in their units, and most of the units that I weren't sure on in this review were because they didn't fit that extreme specialization. The guys that are more kind of general, I think, aren't as Eldar, aren't as good. So the ones that really stand out are specialized. Your things like your fire prisms can really just go your AT roll and nothing else, and they're good for that. So if you like that, then you'll like these guys. They really focus on harassing and hit and run tactics instead of just standing their ground. So if you like that kind of poke your head out, shoot, run, pop up, shoot, pop back down, they're going to be your kind of thing. There's a real focus on good tech and weapons as opposed to being tough and having lots of guys. You got just cutting edge tech. It's really fun. Your webway portal gives you a good tactical flexibility. You can play games where you don't use it at all, but you always have the option of going, you know what, I want to actually bring a webway this game. I want to have these guys in there. They're going to pop out. It's a good way to get my Guardians up the field early or something like that. Your Titans are surprisingly resilient with the hollow field, so maybe this one should just say hollow field. Hollow field 3+ is great. Someone fires off a Titan killer weapon at you. You save it on a 3+. You are going to be laughing with it. It's really cool. There's good choice in the limited selections. So, you might look at the army list when you're looking, what can I get? I can buy Guardians or Aspect Warriors. Oh, okay, I can buy a Falcon unit, I can buy a heavy tank unit, I can buy Titans. But you've actually got a lot of choice in those selections. Your Guardian squads can just be normal throwaway Guardian squads, or you can start chucking in 4 or 5 different upgrades in on them. Your Aspect Warriors, you can just take one kind of unit of aspects, but you've got about 8 or 9 there to choose from. You can mix and match in them. Your super heavies, again, you've got different choices in them. So you may not have 30 unit formations to choose from, but in the half dozen formations you'll choose from, you've got 30 choices. So it's really interesting in that sense. Fairly reliable for the activation and strategy roles, and the Farsight rule cannot be overstated. It's brilliant. The double retain initiative is really good. You just use it when you need it. It's great. What are the areas of difficulty that you can have with the Eldar? You can't form a defensive line as easily as other armies. You can't stand there like a Marine army and just rely on your toughness. You can't do it like Orcs and rely on your bodies on the ground. You can't do it like Imperial Guard and rely, on your armor and your numbers. So not as tough as some, generally going to be outnumbered by other armies. And there's some expensive pieces in the army. I mean, you get expensive pieces in every army. Don't hear me say that, but generally an expensive Orc formation might have 3-4 times the number of people or vehicles as what you have, so yours can be quite pricey. Units will not perform well outside of their role. I kind of think like when you look at the Marines and the tactical squad, it's a real strong unit because it performs well in a lot of different roles. Eldar's not the same. If you take Falcons, they've got a specific role. If you take Prisms, they've got a specific role. Don't take your Prism tanks and try and do anything else other than shoot vehicles with them. Otherwise, it's a waste of points. Your webway might lead to a mismatch first turn is a negative or a difficulty. And your webway is limited in how many formations you can bring in per turn. So if you're going on the webway, you've really got to understand how it works and push into that. And you've got to understand too that, if I'm putting things in the webway, I've got less on the field. I've got less activation straight up potentially. I've got less to take the hit if they're going to be hitting me with artillery. You've got to think all these things through with the webway. And you cannot garrison units to form a defensive line. Yes, I know your Warwalkers and your Scouts, but they'll just roll over. They're kind of like a cheap tent at that point. And the Eldar still like to run away. They don't have as many leaders running around as other armies potentially, don't have as many bodies, any formation to stop them from running. So you might find that you take a few hits on your Falcon squad and all of a sudden your 3 or 4 Falcons that you have left are running away. And you're like, oh, okay, didn't expect this from them. So they do run still. So they're easy to get back, but they do run. And I would say they are a scalpel, not a mallet, is kind of the final verdict on them. Don't expect to just whack people with them, but just do some fine surgery with them. Well, thanks for watching. This has been a mammoth episode as we reviewed the Biel Tan Eldar Codex. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you've gotten this far, I'm impressed. We're at about an hour and a half almost, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you want to see coming up. Sorry I've been so slow on the videos coming out. It's been crazy this year with work, so I haven't had a chance to do any. I've got the aircraft video ready to go, so hopefully I'll have that out in the next week or so. All right, thanks for joining us on Too Many Games.